Hey guys, welcome back to ACR Outdoors. I have the video on my channel of the Swedish Goshawk trap, which I kind of just go over on how it works and stuff, but I didn't really get into how to build one. So I'm going to do this video because I've had a few requests from some viewers on how to build the Swedish Goshawk trap. So as you can see, I've got my materials already prepped in front of me, and I'll go over kind of some of the measurements and length of the sizes for each of the pieces and what all is required. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so I'll be using some rough cut cedar that I had just lying around my shop, because when I used to have my mill, I had some extra cedar, which obviously is going to be good for it being outside. And it's light, which is a kind of a crucial part when you're building this. Because if you're going to have to move it around at all, it tends to be a little bit nicer if it's lighter. So the base I've made out of 1 inch by, 1 inch by 5.5 is what I did for the base. And it's 36, so 3 by 3 by 3, so it's a perfect square. And so obviously on this case, I did it by subtracting 1 inch off both sides. So the long lengths here are 36. So you need two 36s, and you need two at 34 so that it fits between, subtracting the two end pieces, which gives you the 36 outside diameter. So that, then you need to have the end triangles, or the roofing, or this is kind of what supports the doors once they shut. So this is done with two pieces at 27.5 inches long, and obviously you would need 4 of those cut, so you could have a set of this on each side, which you'll see when I assemble it. And at 27.5 inches long, you then run 245 cuts running in the same direction, so that it'll run flush down this face once we attach it, and it's flush across the top, and then giving us a 45-degree angle for the roof to sit on, or the doors, I should say. So there'll be 2 of those. We need a set of 24 3/4 inch long, and again, all this material is just based on how thick you used. I've got obviously 3/4 inch material that I've ripped at 1.5 inches wide is what I've used for most of these pieces. So 2 of those. You need 2 at 24 inches long, and you'll need 6. These are for the top, the middle, and the bottom of the doors, the supports, and they're 35 3/4 long. And I actually went with a little bit thicker on these ones, as they're going to be the support itself. You'll see once we assemble. So that, you will need a dowel. It needs to be 35 inches long, because you're going to cut it to the length of the inside of the doors, and then you're going to split it in half, which we will go over once we get there. I then use this nylon meshing is my inside material, so that it's a feather saver on the inside of the doors and the inside of the trap. And then I use chicken wire, which I don't have here at the moment, but we'll get to it when we install it. So chicken wire, which is what wraps around the outside to keep predators out, and obviously to help keep the hawk in as well. You're also going to need 4, so two packs of 2, so 4 total hinges, so 2 for each door. Obviously I went with just little 2-inch hinges, and you're going to need 4 of the springs, and here's the measurements for the springs. They are 5/8 by 8 3/8 by 0.062 inch, and we put 4 of those on, 2 on each door. So yes. So the uprights on the sides of the doors, what I do is, if you offset them, so obviously the lower bracket, the middle bracket, and the top one has to be within that 36, so 35 3/4 works, because it needs to be inside of this. Whereas these, you actually want to have them so that they overlap the outside, so I don't put it, I don't know if you can see with the camera, but I don't put it flush to this bottom one. I actually offset them that way so that when this closes, that's what's actually catching on the uprights. And it'll be the same when I do it on this side. So the difference in lengths, which you'll see when I assemble it, is that one side has ones that go all the way up, and then the other side is going to have them where they go just underneath it. So if this one closes first, this one still will close and it's still a perfect seal. Whereas if you had them both at the same length, you'll end up with one that's going to want to sit higher or catch on the top. So you go with one that's shorter so that they seal. So I will install those. And as far as screw sizes that you should use, it all depends on how thick the wood is that you're using. So that'll be what you choose for your length of the screws. And I go 8 inches up to the bottom of this one. So you'll see, so this is the center post that'll be holding the artificial perch in place. And I find that you want to keep it sort of low in the trap. You don't want to have it up too high, otherwise when the bird flies in and sets it off, it might still be up too high for when the doors close. So you kind of want the perch to be fairly low in the trap. So once it sets it off, the bird is already down near the base of the trap when the doors close. So like I said, 8 inches is kind of where I put it. That, and then your top piece on. The top one on the longer side, you want to make sure here that it sits lower than this. Otherwise, if it's sitting up, the other door when it closes can catch on it. So you want it to close and just sit a little bit lower inside here. This being higher doesn't really matter because we're going to be landing below that. You'll see when I do the other side. So I'm going to now attach the other side there, and then this door is done. So for the hinge install, what I do is I put the first screw up in here. So I'll show you. And this would actually be better with maybe some rings or something so that this doesn't actually come off. I just put them, and once they're on here, they sort of just stay on there. All I do is put a little tension on the spring, and then down underneath there, whether you can see it or not, that's where I put the next connection point. And that's it. You just want a bit of tension on it when the door is closed, so that it's still just holding it closed, and then it'll still be sturdy and locked in place, like hard for me to open it. Like I can pry on it, but it's definitely holding it in place. But then it's going to be stretched out a fair bit once we actually put it up into its open position. So you want it to be at its closed and somewhat loose, otherwise you're just always going to have tension on it. Okay, so that's the one door complete. As you can see now, it's got its spring loaded, and I'm gonna do the other door, but like I said, it's the exact same, other than you go with shorter pieces, so that when you do this part, you can see up here that this door is going to fall just in front of this one. So that way it'll still go overlap like this, but with the other piece running underneath it, and it'll seal that top edge. And I'll show you when I get there, but I won't bore you with me putting the hinges on again and doing the sides. I'll show you when I get to the top piece. We're doing the top of the second door. So what you can see here is what you want to do is you're going to just have this so that it sits just underneath the other one. That way, if this one is open, it can close with the other one still open. It can open and close, and same with this one's closed, that it's not going to interfere with the other door opening and closing. So you just have to put it on underneath that one. I will do that now. Okay, so that's both sides now. So now both doors open and close independently. I'm going to now add the springs to the second door, same as I did on the first one. And then we add our meshing. And actually for this time, what I've done with my last trap is I actually put the meshing on, and then I cut more boards that I could sandwich across. But because I'm trying to keep this light, what I'm gonna try this time is to zip tie. I might just drill some holes in certain positions, and then I will zip tie the meshing on the inside and on the outside. That's the plan. If it's not strong enough and they just seem to bust through, then I will switch it up, I guess, back to the sandwiching method. But it ends up adding, well, 6 more boards on it, and it once it's complete with the meshing and the cage and everything, it starts to get a little awkward to carry around. So the lighter the better, and that's the plan. So I'm gonna try that and we'll see what happens. So once you get to doing the dowels, your best way to do that is obviously take your springs off, figure out where your doors want to sit square. You want to try to keep the doors so they sit square, and it helps with the way we've done these hinges that it almost can't go further back. But what I've even done on my past traps, and I might do it again on this one, is I add a string from the door to the top of the trap so that once it gets to this point, it can't actually push further back. So you can, once you put your, because the springs are what are holding the door from coming in, but you're going to use dowels. You're going to cut dowels to the size, so you need to figure out what your inside measurements are. So you can see that this one's going to fit. So once I have that in place and the springs are pulling, then the trap will be set. So the best way to do this is, I'm not going to give you a measurement on the dowel, so you get your doors so they're square, figure out your measurement from the center post to the center post at square, cut your dowel to that length, and then cut your dowel perfectly square in the middle. You want to make sure you have a nice flat surface on the dowel so that when the trap is set, that it wants to stay in that position, and the only thing that's going to break it is when something lands on it. So yeah, so now basically we have predator proofing on the outside chicken wire, and we've got the nylon meshing on the inside to keep their feathers protected. So I'll do that now on all the other sides. You can see I've already got the nylon on, and now I'm just going to put the chicken wire zip tied, same as I did this one. Yeah, and so one more little thing that I'm actually going to try. So on the last version that I made, what I actually did was, make sure you can see me here yet, I put screw here and up in here so that I could tie a string across here, so that what would happen is when the spring was, or when the trap was set, the string would keep it from allowing it to go any further this way, so it would get rid of that rocking that can happen backwards, because I find that in the wind the whole trap seems to want to just go like this, and if a bird flies down and lands like that, there was enough movement there that I found that it would just drop it would set the trap off just from them hitting it. So what I'm going to try on this one, and I've already done a couple tests here with it, it seems like it's going to work. I'm using paracord. I've run it down through the center of the spring so that, and I put knots on each end that won't fit through the spring, so that you can see it'll only stretch the spring as far as the paracord. And once it's on there and you pull it up to this position, it sort of locks it a little bit better, and it allows it so that if something hits it that way, that the load's going to more take on the rope than it is going to be on the spring, which would just allow it to set the trap off. Anyway, that's just a little thing I'm going to try, and we'll see if it improves on the trap. Okay, so that is the top part complete. We've got the chicken wire on the outside, the nice soft nylon meshing on the inside, our two doors that open. I just got to install my springs again, so I'll just throw the springs on and I'll do a little test freeze. Okay. Here. She's set. Actually, I'll have to throw something in there. This little light piece of cedar. Just like that. We've got a bird. Thanks for watching ACR Outdoors, guys, and be sure to tune in next week as we attempt to trap a female Cooper's hawk. It's going to be exciting, and you don't want to miss out. So don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and the bell, and we will see you next week.